Verdict, the New Democracy has 3 days to form a coalition, and fresh elections in June seem likely. And finally, IT major Cognizant beats profits but trims its full-year revenue target to at least $7.34 billion, below the Wall Street estimates of $7.55 billion, but is still going to pip Infosys in the June quarter. We'll get to all those stories in a moment, but first a look at the top story, which is Cognizant today. The stock might be down about 15% here, but there is plenty of action happening in the company. Pleasure to have both Frank D'Souza, the CEO, and Gordon Cohen, the president of the company, joining me.
Great to be here.
Frank, let's start with what went wrong, if I can ask you that, because I'm a little tired of asking Cognizant every time about how you managed to beat estimates and beat what is forecast.
Well, first of all, I would like to say that we had a very solid first quarter. We beat our guidance again in the first quarter. Our growth was strong, and our growth was strong across all of our industry segments. So we were pleased with our performance in the first quarter. What happens normally at this time of the year, Namrata, is as we come out of the first quarter going into the second quarter, we see an acceleration in demand. That's a typical pattern at Cognizant, and we saw that this year, but just we didn't see it at the level that we would have expected coming into the second quarter. And based on that, that really sets the tone for the rest of the year. So we decided to take a conservative approach and really trim our guidance a little bit for our outlook for the full year. We still expect to grow at least 20% for the full year, which is strong growth. But given the dynamics in some of our sectors, we thought it was prudent to trim our demand a little bit.
That's double of what the overall industry is still growing at. But in terms of problems, is it Eurozone specific? I mean, over the weekend, we have a lot of anti-austerity votes as well coming in. Does that change the dynamic further for your business in Europe?
Well, coming into this year, we were concerned about Europe, and we continue to remain cautious about the outlook for Europe for the rest of this year. What's really different at this point is our outlook for some parts of the North American business at Cognizant, particularly the banking sector of our financial services business and the pharmaceutical sector of our overall healthcare business. We saw a little bit of weakness in these areas in the first quarter going into the second quarter, and we expect those to underperform the company for the rest of the year.
Okay. Gordon, I know now you are in charge of the day-to-day running of the company, and I'll come to Frank on transformational new strategies later. But in terms of the various breakdown, you've seen strong growth in manufacturing and retail, I believe, and there has been a little bit of a slowdown in BFSI, though consulting still remains strong.
So BFSI is interesting. You have to break it down into banking and insurance. Insurance is doing extraordinarily well. Grew 6 or 7% sequentially in Q1. We expect it to continue to grow at a very healthy pace, well above company average. Core banking was softer. It was flat in Q1. We expect it to grow sequentially. Let me be very clear. We expect core banking to grow sequentially in Q2. But the pace of growth, the acceleration of that growth is not going to be as strong as we expected. And there are really two sectors that were the primary drivers of why we reduced our guidance. One was banking. Growth is kicking in, but not as steeply as we expected. And the other is the pharmaceutical industry, which was down 4% sequentially in Q1. We expect it to grow in Q2, but not at the pace that we expected. But I want to put in perspective, even banking and pharmaceutical, those subsectors, which are our weakest sectors, both of those we expect to grow double digits on a full-year basis. So this is not that these sectors have fallen apart. It's just this rate of the acceleration of growth is not what we anticipated.
I was reading one of your Twitter statements in Cognizant, and you're saying we're still seeing a huge amount of transformational deals. In what sector and what kind of deals? What is the size? What kind of clients are expressing?
This is one of the things that's interesting. I think part of it is because of our increasingly broad range of services, everything from consulting to core IT to BPO to infrastructure management. Clients are working with us and looking at how can they leverage our entire range of services to help them operate their own businesses differently. So whether it's business processes as a service where clients say, we now want you to do this task using your people on your systems. An example of this is in the pharmaceutical industry. We now do what's known as clinical operations. commercial operations, where we are responsible for sales force management, territory alignment. We charge the customer per sales rep per month. And we've taken over that entire function, and they no longer have to do it. So there are lots of areas where we are working with the clients to help them fundamentally change how they do their own businesses. These tend to be much larger deals. We're now credible to play in these deals, and we have a very healthy pipeline of them.
That's the USP in terms of having business consultants come in and give that expertise in Cognizant. Frank, coming to Obama and this anti-outsourcing noise, the campaign, the recent one of almost $780,000 to be used, where there's a line saying Mitt Romney actually outsourced jobs. How do you react to all this anti-outsourcing rhetoric?
You know, I think we go back to the fundamentals, as I've said before, Namrata. The issue that we have is that we continue to be aggressive hires in the United States. We look for talent. We added 2,800 people in the first quarter worldwide. We're aggressively recruiting in the campuses in the United States. At this point, we hired 200 people from campuses in the United States in the last few months. The challenge we have is that there just isn't enough talent, scientific talent in the United States at this point to meet the demands. And so when we come back to fundamentals, we can't get the math to work. We think that there's no way to meet the technology demands in the United States without a healthy immigration policy that allows the United States to bring qualified talent, particularly in what are called the STEM disciplines, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, into the United States to meet the demands. The last thing I'll say very quickly is that our clients are becoming more technology intensive, not less technology intensive. There are these huge new disruptive technologies out there, what we are calling the SMAC stack, social, mobile, analytics, and cloud. These are allowing our customers to differentiate themselves and drive new sources of revenue. We've got to be able to have the talent to help them deploy those new technologies more quickly so that they can become healthy more quickly. I
know you did this recent big shake-up in management structure to leverage new technologies at Cognizant. That's what you're in charge of now, looking at the future and looking at these new technologies. What do we know about the new emerging businesses that you're focusing on in terms of how much they will add to your bottom line in the next year or two? Can you give a sense of that direction?
Well, really, I'm focused in three big areas. One is new technologies, as you pointed out, the so-called SMAC stack that I just talked about, social, mobile, analytics, and cloud. The second area that I'm focused on is new markets. So looking at how do we take the Cognizant model into new industries like the public sector or into new geographic markets like Latin America. And the third area that I'm focused on are what we're calling the new delivery models. These are things like Gordon talked about, business process as a service, that break the linearity in our business model, the correlation between headcount and revenue growth. None of these are areas that we expect to drive short-term revenue growth. We've been very clear about that. These are what we're calling Horizon 3 services. We think that revenue from these will kick in 3 or 4 years from now in a meaningful way, given the size of Cognizant. But they distinguish us today as thought leaders with our clients. So we're working very closely with clients. We're delighted with the traction we've seen in the short term. And in the meantime, there's plenty of growth for the company in our Horizon 1 and our Horizon 2 businesses that Gordon's overseeing at this point.
Speaking about new technologies, are you both going for the Facebook lunch?
I'm up to 6 friends on Facebook, so probably you have to have more than 6 friends before you're invited to the lunch.
I believe Cognizant has its own social platform,
yes,
right? The 2.0. Okay, Gordon, let's talk about GAR, the Indian tax avoidance rules, and the fact that they've been delayed for a year. We've seen a strong rebound in the rupee. How does that play out for you? I understand a weak rupee means easier revenues.
It doesn't have a big impact for us. We have a very aggressive hedging program, about $3.7 billion in outstanding hedges going out through 2015. So short-term movements in the rupee impact us a little bit, but not a lot. As the rupee depreciated, we got some benefit of it. As it's going back, it hurts a little bit, but it's not material for us. What we care about is what's the long-term trends for the rupee. So we watch it, but compared to many others, because of our hedging program, we're just not as sensitive to it.
Frank, there's a very flattering write-up in Forbes India saying that Cognizant's deadliest weapon is you and the management. And they say that you are actually changing the role of not only Cognizant, the role of the CEO and possibly the industry itself. This focus on this new emerging technologies, exactly how do you see it playing up with the IT majors in a competitive sense? So if you look at like a TCS or an Infosys or a Wipro and you? How would you see that paradigm change thanks to emerging technologies?
First of all, let me start by saying that, the Cognizant phenomenon is really not due to any one individual. It's really this team of tremendously talented people that we have around the world that makes Cognizant happen every single day in terms of what we deliver. I think that we believe that we are at an incredible inflection point in the market. These new technologies, again, the SMAC stack, as I was referring to earlier, are tremendously disruptive. They've got an opportunity to drive real meaningful change in our clients' business models. And I think that being able to capitalize on those opportunities isn't just about being good at technology, which I think we're very good at. It also requires you to have very deep relationships with your clients and a very strong consulting front end so that you can work with your clients to really understand how these technologies are going to impact their business models. You can rewire their businesses and help them rethink how they operate using these new technologies. And I think that's where Cognizant really shines, is that combination of deep technology expertise with a very strong client-facing team and a strong management consulting capability, which is going to allow us to capitalize on these things.
And you're getting up on the ladder as well, Gordon. Next quarter, pipping Infosys?
I had never heard that term till I saw it in the paper today. We have great competitors. They're high-quality companies with very smart managers. So we focus less on are we passing a particular company or not. What we are focused on is are we delivering industry-leading growth? Because we should. Our margin, we've made the decision to keep our margins a little bit lower, and what we've said to our shareholders in return, it's a fair expectation that we should have materially higher growth than others in the industry. And we're proud, even with the change in the guidance, we're proud that we are guiding to a number that is well above others in the industry.
Thanks for shaking up the space and for giving us new paradigm shifts in the IT space as well. Thanks, both of you, Gordon and Frank.
Thanks.
We'll slip into a quick break. Coming up next, the GAR delay. What does that mean for FI investors? And all the news from Eurozone's verdicts. France, Hollande takes over, the first socialist president in 17 years.